Welcome to the Folk School on Willow Creek, featuring University Distinguished Professor Tom Ezern, singing and telling stories from the Salon on Willow Creek.
I need a bed for the night, boys, and my horses need hay. I've been riding that grub line on the hot fish highway. You ask what place I like the best. The sandhills, oh, the sandhills, the place Kinkaider make their home, and prairie chickens freely roam. In old Nebraska, wide domain, it's a place I long to see again. The sandhills is the very best. She is the queen of all the West. We raise is our delight. The mountains too are out of sight. Potatoes grown are extra fine and can't be beat in any clime. In all Nebraska, wide domain, it's the place I long to see again. The sandhills is the very best. She is the queen of all the rest. Peaceful cows in pastures dream, they furnish us with gold and cream. So I shall keep my Kinkaider home, and never far away shall roam. Oh, in all Nebraska, wide domain, it's the place I long to see again. The sandhills is the very best. She is the queen of all the West. Now let us all, with heart sincere, give thanks to Him who brought us here, and for the homestead law He made, this noble Moses P. Kinkaider. In all Nebraska, the wide domain, it's a place I long to see again. The sandhills is the very best. She is I like that old song. It's, of course, one of the many variations of the Beulah land complex in Great Plains balladry. Kansas land, Nebraska land, Montana land, and in this case, the Sandhills is a ballad specific to those two people who came in and homesteaded under the Kinkaider Act, the enlarged Homestead Act that applied to that grassy, hilly area in western Nebraska. The Kinkaiders. Now, let's see, what do we have here for an overall title tonight? Yeah, it's called The Archive of Ballads. Just to say a word about what the heck we've been going on. You know, this is Willow Creek Folk School, number 112, right? 100. Yeah? You're looking at me strangely.
Like, it's unbelievable.
Well, yeah, it's got...
It's true.
Yeah. Yeah, it raises serious questions in several ways. And the accumulation of stuff here. It's not just a bunch of hours of video. What I'm talking about is this trove of ballads from the Great Plains, basically, from about the period 1875 to 1915, the heyday of balladry on the western prairies. And I'm calling this the Archive of Ballads. So what's going on with this? Started this here, a couple of years ago, more than 2 years ago now. Kind of a little casual arrangement. We'll go live and sing a few songs and get together with some friends on Friday nights And this was in the middle of COVID times, the worst of COVID times. And yeah, okay, there's a logic to that, but then it assumed a life of its own when, well, okay, the problem is I'm kind of an inveterate research historian, always looking at the background of things. And so these ballads don't mean the same as they did when I was singing them in 1975. Every one of them is a research question. Where the heck does this thing come from? Because we didn't know then. And now the possibilities in digital source materials to track these things right to the headwaters are amazing. And so the archive of folk song is greatly expanded. We don't just have what the song catchers went out and grabbed out of the air in the 1890s and early 1900s, and then it becomes a bit of a inbred legacy that everybody sings and works from. No, now it's possible to go back and rediscover all kinds of things that were current at one time and then got lost, or that circulated in myriad variants. It's a far more rich and complex thing. In other words, the archive, the accessible source material, is way bigger than it ever was before. That's the archive of ballads. And then we bring them into the present again, start singing them. And the proposition is people might refamiliarize themselves with old standards on new familiarity. And in addition, a lot of things now are brought to the fore that were forgotten. And then we've got this other thing. I'm singing from the text here on Kinkaider's song, what we call the Willow Creek song bag. And to our friends in literature, what we're talking about here is a canon. We're going back and digging up the graves and sorting through the bones and keeping some of them. And kind of picking and choosing and saying, this one should be foregrounded. This one should be held up. This one should be remembered. And people should be singing this thing. And it'll be good for us as people of the plains to do that. And so that's the scheme of what's happening, the undercurrents of all the stuff that's going on here. I'll explain the two arrangements of flowers, two bouquets of flowers here later on. And what I want to convey with this little program, the Archive of Folk Song, is something of the thrill of finding the stuff. I mean, when I tracked down this song that Louise Pound and others knew about a century ago, but they didn't know where it came from. They just, there's a song. And when I tracked it down, to the Kinkaider picnic of the 16th of August of 1911 at the Will Davis Timber Claim Grove in Custer County, Nebraska, and this teenage girl named Matthews who wrote down the text of this ballad that the Kinkaider homestead picnickers were singing about their experiences and about their patron, Moses P. Kinkaider, who passed the Homestead Act under which they settled, to track that down to that very place. Now, Dr. K, one of our many trips north and south, we are going to find the Will Davis Grove.
Okay.
Because we've got to go out there and maybe take a picnic hamper to that place where the Kinkaiders first was sung in public. Huh?
Okay.
All right. Isn't she great? She came for that kind of goofy stuff. Now, the Sandhills region of Nebraska, of course, is utterly spectacular territory. I wish it weren't so darn dry. Some of you noticed the downpour we had, which led up just as I began to start singing here. I didn't do that.
There is somewhere that eastern Kansas had some rain today.
Oh, excellent. But a heck of a lot of the Central Plains have not.
Yes.
So probably our own Missouri Coteau is prettier than the Nebraska Sandhills this year. But nevertheless, it's a well-known region. And one of the reasons it's well-known is, a country needs people to sing the place. I don't mean packing a guitar. I mean to write about it with history, fiction, poetry, and of the Sandhills of Nebraska, none more so than Mari Sandoz. And so I've asked Dr. Kelley to read a little bit, just some selections, and what she's going to read, I don't know if she knows this yet, actually ties in with stuff that's going to come up later in the folk school tonight. some excerpts from Mari Sandoz's article, essay, "The Kinkaider Comes and Goes, Memories of an Adventurous Childhood in the Sandhills of Nebraska." This essay by Sandoz is the genesis of her later biography of her father, Old Jule. Ready?
I'm ready.
Give it.
Yep. On a gate post, 25 miles over the windswept hills from the nearest railroad, hangs a tipsy sign. Many winter snows, many summer suns have weathered it, mellowed it to a velvety gray. Precariously creaking on one nail, the first storm will cast it down, unlamented, into the jointed sandgrass. While the boiling engine of the mail truck cooled from the long pull of the sandy gap, I shook the wrinkles from my shirt and idly inspected the blurred legend, "Pleasant Home." No pleasantness here to sun-blinded eyes, only a little valley carpeted with russet bunchgrass tucked in between towering hills whose highest dunes are bald among clusters of green-black yuccas. Decidedly no home. But in a clump of ragged sunflowers stood an old cook stove, the corroded oven door sagging to reveal hay and the straw of a mouse nest where spicy cookies once baked. And suddenly it all came back. The little white beehive of a house with a green blind at one window, the home of a spinster music teacher from Chicago, and one of the first of a dozen of these music boxes, as the cowboys dubbed them. A rare pleasantness, too, crept over me. The soft haze of a heat dance on the far gap, brown shading to cream yellow on the hill slopes, the whitish horizon streaked with wind, blending to deepest blue overhead. Memories relegated to mental attics by years at college and at work revived in my consciousness. This patch of sandhills, stretching from the Niobrara River to the Platte, was the Jotunheim of my childhood, spent upon its fringes. Out of this almost mythical land, apparently so monotonous, so passionless, came wondrous and fearful tales of gray wolves that leaped upon fat yearlings, probably because of the scarcity of children, and of rattlesnakes, and of cattlemen. Thrillingly, the memory of all this came back to me as I stood before the ruins of her old house and rubbed the velvety surface of the sign. I had almost forgotten the little woman, yet she had helped make the long months before Mother moved into the district less lonesome by sending me little notes and verses about the purpled hills and the baptismal silences. And she had loaned me the novels of Conrad. How could I have forgotten that? But she represented only one type of the strange folk we found in the sandhills. Coming from every corner and blind alley of the world, the settlers were sure to differ in their conception of a fitting mode of life and habitation. Some lived in their wagons or in the open, until the winter's early march forced them to dig into the ground. Hay from a rancher's meadow formed the roof of their dugouts and the pallets in the corners, and even filled the round barrel of the hay burners that smoked furiously and reddened the eyes. An occasional foreigner and his wife, refugees from a more bitter foe than cold or loneliness, lived content in a dugout for several years. Many an erratic bachelor, lacking the proddings of ambitious womenfolk, lived in the ground until a wandering range cow or his own horse fell unheralded into the dark and damp interior. Then there was the drifter who built himself a winter lodge of old rushes held together with barbed wire and posts pilfered from a rancher's hay corral. The penniless ate veal, stealthily but surely, and the cattleman, suddenly on the wrong side of the fence, could do nothing.
Now, whose whole place was that she started out passing? The overgrown, old music box, homesteading.
Yeah, well, it was her music teacher.
She's a teacher.
Yes.
Right. Okay,
Yeah.
tuck that one away.
Okay.
That part of it.
Okay.
It's the teacher's house. One of the things that's brought certain songs to the surface to feature in the archive of folk song tonight is this list I maintain. It says at the top, commemorations, things to think about. And, you know, we're getting to the cycle. We're in the third year of the Willow Creek Folk School, and you can't reinvent it every week. You know, you got to have some things that kind of carry over. And so I started making a list of things in Great Plains history and life that have ballads about them, and noted personages and that sort of thing, so that they pop up on my checklist here. And it happens that this week, of course, comes wait a minute, flip my sheet here. It was on the 16th of August of 1911, the Kinkaider's picnic at Davis Grove, where they sang the ballad of the Kinkaiders for the first time. It was on the 21st of August of 1863 that William Clark Quantrill and his band of bushwhackers rode in and sacked and burned the Free State city of Lawrence, Kansas, giving rise to one of the great outlaw ballads of the Great Plains, except it didn't quite start out as an outlaw ballad. Now, okay, so this is another one of those discoveries from the archive of folk song, and it predates the Willow Creek Folk School quite a bit. It goes back to the 1980s when I was with Emporia State of Kansas, and I had a energetic graduate student named Mark Weeks who was combing through the newspapers of the Flint Hills region for all kinds of stuff, and he came in a little excited and said, look at this. And he had found the original text of Quantrill's Raid on Lawrence with an author attribution, a fellow named Billy Edwards. And no one knew where this song came from before. People mostly knew it as the Ballad of Quantrill. And as an outlaw ballad, come all you bold robbers and open your ears. It kind of lapses into that trope. Originally, when Billy Edwards, who I'm pretty sure was out from around Council Grove, but he might have been in Lawrence at the time of the raid, that's uncertain. Originally, he wrote this. Well, Jim Lane, the Free State leader and rascal and senator from Kansas, figures in this song in kind of an ambivalent way. We don't know whether he's, again, a fraud or a hero. You have to study the stanzas a little bit. And I'm not sure myself, because I think there's some inside humor between Billy Edwards, the author, and Sam Wood, the editor who published it. Those of you who know the history of that era, Sam Wood was kind of a mercurial political figure at the time. I think they're pulling our leg a little bit with this song in some ways, but it's a dandy. So I'm about to sing Quantrill's Raid on Lawrence, first published in the Council Grove Press, 8th of February, 1864. With apologies to all our friends at the University of Kansas, but not very deep apologies. Now come all loyal people, I pray, lend an ear. Of Quantrill the robber you quickly will hear. With his gang of robbers he marched double quick time to plunder and burn Lawrence just over the line. With the routing and the shouting and raising the yell, just like some demons from where I can tell. They were intoxicated with brandy and wine when they came to burn Lawrence just over the line. Now this happened in August 1863, and it was a sad sight, you all must agree, to see the dead and the dying lying scattered around. Torch was applied and it burnt the whole town. There was 200 murdered by this rebel band. Never before was such slaughter in all of our land. And by the bushwhackers, the old Missouri guerrillas, led by the ruffian Captain Quantrill, shouting, scouting, and raising the yell, just like some demons just raised up from hell. They were intoxicated with brandy and wine, and they came to the Lord just over the line. When they came to Burn Lawrence, I forgot to say, Jim Lane, he was up about the break of day. When they saw him coming and gone in a great flight, and he jumped in a cornfield and was soon out of sight. Now when they were gone, Jim Lane soon came out to see who was murdered just thereabout. He rallied the living to double quick time, and they followed old Quantrill back over the line. Come on, says Jim Lane to the boys in the rear, while we have the old flag, we have nothing to fear. We swear to defend it and by it we'll stand, till all of these robbers are drove from our land. Come all of your soldiers and don't be afraid, just think of the widows by this rebel raid. All loyal free men together combine, go put down old Quantrill and just over the line. We'll chase 'em and we'll hunt 'em and we won't stop a day, till all those bushwhackers are out of the way. We'll prime up our rifles and take a true aim, and if we should kill Quantrill, we'll not be to blame. Come on, Susan Lane to the boys in the rear, while we have the old flag, we have nothing to fear. We swear to defend it, and by it we'll stand, till all the robbers are drove from our land. Now we run 'em to Grand River, they thought it was cute, then they scattered out to retard our pursuit. But we were close upon 'em and up to their time, but I don't think there's 40 who'll cross that line. Now my song, it is ended when I sing you this verse. Perhaps you've heard better, perhaps you've heard worse, but if anyone here, he don't like my rhyme, well, he can go and hunt Quantrill just over the line, with the routing and shouting and raising the yell, just like some demons from where I can tell. They were intoxicated with brandy and wine when they came to Burn Lawrence just over the line. Yeah. Quantrill's raid on Lawrence, 1863. It occurs to me North Dakota really doesn't have any outlaw ballads. Have you noticed that? Can't think of one.
Really?
I can think of ones from Nebraska, from Kansas, from Oklahoma. Some of those we discovered, like the Ballad of
Maybe the
Cherokee.
outlaws are just too common.
The outlaws are the in-laws. The only one I can think that really originates here is quite recent. It's the Ballad of Gordon Call, freedom fighter Gordon Call.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit chary of singing that very often because, people died and their families are still around in the shootout with Gordon Call.
That's right.
And it's truly an outlaw ballad. Yeah. It's a great outlaw ballad. It's a touchy subject.
Yeah.
You know what's next?
I have an agenda.
Are we on it? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Speaking of outlaws?
Speaking of outlaws. No, speaking of KU fans.
Oh.
For, since we're burning Lawrence today. It'll get burned multiple times, no doubt, in the upcoming football season. But speaking of KU fans, could I make note of an auspicious birthday? My elder brother Stan, who I characterize as, I'm 10, he's 10 plus 10. How's that?
Isn't it 4 score?
Well, that would be 4 score, but that's not rhythmic.
All right.
My elder brother Stan. Now you know how brothers are, and the two of us certainly wouldn't be caught, either one of us, saying fawning complimentary things about the other. Would you? Is that kind of so, ma'am?
Not that I've heard.
No, not really. Yeah, I mean,
maybe you write notes. I don't know.
You have heard me speaking of some admiration of my brother's prowess as a wing shooter.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, and I'd like to one day rise to his level, but I just don't think it'll quite get there.
He's a champion.
He is. And it comes time at a point at 10, maybe to say, be a little kinder in our usual rhetoric, the way we have in this whole part of the country, where we insult one another as an expression of love, and I think particularly among siblings, joshing one another back and forth. People get older and they get more sentimental too, but that maybe is they just become a little more honest. And the thing about Stan is he's the one who stayed on the farm, and he was the one who was suited to stay on the farm. It's not that I couldn't farm, but I may not be all that temperamentally suited to be a farmer or to be a minister of the gospel the way my mother would have preferred, I think. Right? I don't know that those things would have worked out real well. But I really think that the family farm in western Kansas, established in 1874, will make it to its 7th generation. And the generations that preceded us, each one has been important in its own way for sustaining that enterprise. And Stan, personally, has been vital to sustaining that enterprise and bringing another generation and another generation onto that, such that I believe I'll see a 7th generation on the old family farm. Yeah. For carrying on for all of us, so that there still is a place there, so that there still is a there. And through doing all those things that we ritually praise farmers for, feeding the world and that sort of stuff, but with knowledge that, it's not that romantic enterprise. There's grit involved in feeding the world when you're trying to feed your family too. And in a horrific drought year like this year, when your best efforts pay off only marginally, and what you might have been made might be taken off the books by a blown combine tire in the middle of harvest, perhaps. It's time for respect and tribute, and I pay that tonight. And as an expression of that, and this idea that somebody's carrying on the farm, because I tell you, most of the neighbors are gone. There's no place to go home to anymore. We do. There's a poem by the greatest of all poets of the Great Plains, William Stafford, who was himself a Kansas boy. Hutchinson as his home country. It's called The Farm on the Great Plains. It's a poem that I quote at some length in the introduction to Pacing Dakota, actually, and describing the scene of Stan and I driving around and settling my mother's estate. I'm not going to reread that introduction. I've read that at public readings around the region before. I'm going to read the poem, The Farm on the Great Plains, with the proposition that there, but for Stan, and now the next generation, Shane and his family that are on that farm, this is where I would be. All right. The Farm on the Great Plains by William E. Stafford. A telephone line goes cold. Birds tread it wherever it goes. A farm back of a great plain tugs an end of the line. I call that farm every year, ringing it, listening, still. No one is home on the farm. The line only gives a hum. Some year I will ring the line on a night at last, the right one, and with an eye tapered for braille from the phone on the wall, I will see the tenant who waits, the last one left at the place. Through the dark, my braille eye will lovingly touch his face. Hello, is mother at home? No one's home today. But father, he should be there. No, no one's here. But are you the one? And then the line will be gone because both ends will be home. No space, no birds, no farm. Myself will be the plain, wise as winter is gray, pure as cold posts go, pacing toward what I know. Hey, we have any friends on the chat line tonight, Dr. K?
We do. We got some well-wishers for Stan saying happy birthday to them.
Excellent.
Clarence Hertz, thought you were talking about him maybe when you mentioned outlaws. I think he wanted to hear more.
Well, I'm not sure there's a ballad about him, but we can work on it. There are enough misadventures to compose multiple stanzas.
B. Lanning wants to know what finally happened to Quantrill.
What happened to Quantrill? He survived most of the Civil War, got hunted down by a Union posse in Kentucky, as I recall, or was it West Virginia? His skull was taken. This is like the sort of thing that would like a junior high kid, right? Somebody made off with his skull, and then it was deposited in the collections of the Kansas State Historical Society, where it resided for about 100 years. And finally it was repatriated and joined in the graveyard back east with his body. Quantrill, I suppose, got his just desserts. Okay. Hope you're getting some rain, B. Well,
oh, I know something else to add here. Ben Kabishta reports that he got a copy of our book, The Field Guide to Custer's Camps, by Don Wynell. And he's really enjoying it, but also he's working on the Old 10, Old Red Scenic Byway.
Yeah.
And he's thinking this book is going to help bring people in to places like Utterly Caffeinated in New Salem.
He's working on a manuscript?
No, he's reading this one and
he's reading
connecting
Don
it to the old
Wynell's
town.
book.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's one of the things I like about it. People are hunting Custer, and they're going to find a coffee shop in Glen Ellyn.
Exactly.
Yes, yeah. Indeed. Which is one of the purposes of the book, isn't it?
Is to get people out. Don did it on a bicycle.
Yeah, that's not required.
But it can be done by car.
Yeah.
He's laid out all the GPS locations for various spots and told the history of things that happened at those locations.
Well, it's a privilege to run these ballads to ground and then bring them back and have a part in, as I say, canonizing them. I have to be careful using the word canon too, because my friends that are reenactors, if we start talking about cannons, they want to drag out a 12-pound mountain howitzer or something. No, but we're talking about something entering the known body of literature.
One N, not two.
One N, not two. Yeah, actually 2 N's, not
Is
3.
it? Oh.
Canon, C-A-N.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
What brought that up? Oh, yeah. It is a thrill, but there's also this kind of creepy, holy feeling that comes when you're all alone. Maybe it's before dark in the winter, and you find something like that. Another one is, I recall the feeling of holding the ballad book of Hazel Bennett Plagamar. Hazel Bennett was born in Oklahoma and then moved her family up into northwestern South Dakota. And in the 1920s, she was a hired girl working out, like so many farm girls did. But she was a special kind. She took care of families. And specifically, when a family had a baby, a new baby in the household, and women were expected to remain confined to bed for an extended period of time, somebody's got to take care of the family. Well, Hazel, at the age of 16, 17, 18, would go out and take care of these families. There's a new baby. Somebody would show up with a wagon, pick up Hazel, take her to the place where the new baby is, and she'd go in residence with the family for a couple weeks. And then sometimes, before she could even get home after that, somebody would pick her up and say, now we need you over at this place. And so she'd be going point to point. Now, what's unusual about Hazel was she began to write down the songs. You know, she's hearing these women sing to these newborn babies. And they've got repertoires of songs they're using to try to put those babies to sleep or just for the joy of singing to them. And she started writing them down. She filled 2 books. A ballad book, that's like a holy object when you think about it. It's a holy vessel of some kind for passing things down. And I was so taken with the story of this particular ballad book, that of Hazel Bennett and her later married name Hazel Plagamar, that I thought Hazel should have a song of her own. And that song indeed then should reference the ballad book. Many of the songs in which were familiar to me because I'm a singer, but also because my mother, who was not a singer by anybody's estimation, nevertheless sang to babies. And she would sing the Strawberry Roan because it's got a gazillion verses, and sometimes you need a lot of them. And then as a closer, in the late innings, she would go to the Prisoner's Song by Vernon Dalhart. And that was the one to put the baby down. Right? Well, at any rate, then what resulted was this ballad of a ballad keeper, Hazel Bennett. It's called Hazel's Hands. Now there was a young woman named Hazel Bennett. She was born in a sod house in the Oklahoma Territory. She grew up in Buffalo, South Dakota. And at the age of 16, she went out as a hired girl. Whenever a family had a newborn baby, Hazel would come to keep house for the family. Well, she listened to the lullabies that the mother sang to the newborn babies. And she wrote them down in her book and in her heart. Hazel's hands built the fire before the dawn. Hazel's hands helped the family carry on. Hazel's hands rocked the baby every night. Took a pen in hand to write. Won't you think of the valley you're leaving? Oh, how lonely, how drear it will be. Won't you think of the heart you are breaking? And be true to your promise to me. But Hazel's hand built the fire before the dawn. Hazel's hands help the family carry on. Hazel's hands rocked the baby every night. Took pen in hand to write. Oh, Dakota land, sweet Dakota land, as on the dugout roof I stand, I look away across the plains, and I wonder why it never rains. Till Gabriel doth his trumpet sound, and he says the rain has gone around. But Hazel's hands built the fire before the dawn. Hazel's hands helped the family carry on. Hazel's hands rocked the baby every night. Stood, took pen in hand to write. Oh, I know there's ponies that I cannot ride. There's some of them living, they haven't all died. But I'll bet my money there's no man alive who could stay with old Strawberry when he makes his high dive. But Hazel's hands built the fire before the dawn. Hazel's hands helped the family carry on. Hazel's hands rocked the baby every night. Took pen in hand to write. Now if I had the wings of an angel, over these prison walls I would fly. I would fly to the arms of my poor darling. There I'd be willing to die. Hazel's hands built the fire before the dawn. Hazel's hands helped the family carry on. Hazel's hand rocked the baby every night. And that's Hazel's song. Anything news you want to bring us from NDSU Press this week?
Okay. I've just been working on editing, still working on the turkey book, and now on the rural rethinking book. Some good stuff coming out. 4 hard books, though, to get out this fall. So that's what I've been mostly immersed in. However, classes are about to begin. So I've been working on travel arrangements for taking students up into Canada this fall, for taking them out west to the Braddock Letterpress Museum. We're going to spend 3 days out there printing another chapbook. We've got another trip that'll be just out to West Fargo, but we'll be doing some letterpress printing out there too at the 100 Times.
And this fall, for our friends in the business, you will be exhibiting at the Western History Association meeting again, right?
That's right. We'll have a booth and
in San Antonio.
Yeah, be selling books there. Have a graduate assistant, Oliver, who's going to help me out, and we'll be representing the press in San Antonio.
Outstanding. So we're getting ready to enter into the teaching cycle again here. You're all ready for classes, aren't you?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, me too. Just completely. Everything's laid out.
I have 14 bodies in the class this fall. I'm really
In the
glad
publishing
for that.
class, yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking about, we have a pretty sweet gig in our teaching lives, don't you think?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. And teaching can get to be a grind, but it's also a privilege. And I worry about the people leaving the profession these days. And I'm determined we've got to do something to bring young people, promising young people, into it, to rebuild it.
Yes. It's good work. It's important work. How many teachers do we have in our family? Do you remember we took a count?
Oh, yes. Well, we should make note. We have one kids and grandkids. 1, 2.
Meg, Michael, Scott, Emily, Steve, Austin.
We got a half dozen. We got a basketball team and 1 sub. All right. Yeah, we got them in the family. And this, for all these reasons, this week's calendar ballad is the school teacher's prayer. You've never heard this one before because it was finished about 60 minutes ago.
Okay.
Now, O Lord, lend me thine ear, the prayer of an old school teacher to hear. I suppose my prayer may not be cool, still I ask you to bless our little school. Now our principals come and principals go. School superintendents, they do also. New kids pass through year by year. Come every fall, I'm keeping school here. Now the state superintendent wants us to test politicians, burners, and all the rest who labor our character to impeach. Just open the doors and let us teach. I don't have all the answers, but this I hold dear. The Republic depends on what we do here. My faith sometimes wavers, but it does not break. So I'm ready another year to undertake. Bless all of the children under my charge, their knowledge and character to enlarge. Let the seed fall on fertile ground, and my classroom be filled with joyful sound. Now, O Lord, lend me thine ear, the prayer of an old school teacher to hear. I suppose my prayer may not be cool, still ask you to bless our our little school. So the roses over here are for our colleagues in the public schools. They come from the Rose Garden of Dr. Kelley, who herself is a veteran and award-winning public school teacher. The sunflowers are looking a little shabby, you know. Up north here, it's been a late blooming season for some of the more wildflowers, including the sunflowers. I managed to find some straggly Maximilians, and I filled in a little bit with a little native hyssop. But the sunflowers, being the state flower of Kansas, these are for our teacher friends, and then these are for Stan. With the deer in the antelope plain, myself will be the plain, wise as winter is gray, pure cold posts go pacing toward what I know. Where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all the day. No, the skies are not cloudy all day. Dr. Kelley?
We now conclude today's edition of the Folk School on Willow Creek. We invite you to join us again next Friday at 8 p.m. Central Time for more songs and stories.